With the help of movement, humanization, and layering, you can take your shaker groove from a static one that sounds like this into one that sounds like this. Pretty amazing, the difference, right? Let us assume that this is the core drums groove that you have going. But it sounds so stale, right? So boring. What else can we do to make it more complex and actually make it groove? First thing I'd like to do is to add a 16th shaker groove. Just load up any one of these sounds into the MIDI track, create a MIDI clip. Now start drawing in the 16th notes. Duplicate that. Oh my gosh. Still very robotic. Not what we're looking for. How do we make this natural? Step 1, add movement. How do we add movement to a sound? By creating velocity changes. So what we're going to do is double click one of these MIDI tracks here and open up this velocity panel that you see down here. Because if a shaker is played naturally, if someone records a shaker into a mic, then it usually always has different sounds to each little hit. And that's what we can do with this velocity panel. So what we're doing by changing these individual velocity hits is creating more expression, just adding a bit of gain difference with each little shaker. Let's see how this sounds. Not enough for me. I'm gonna go for a bit of a groove like this. That already sounds quite cool. Now what we're gonna do is take this section and duplicate that until the end. Take this MIDI clip and duplicate that till the end as well. Change the tempo to 120, more of a down tempo vibe. What else can we do to add movement to the sound? We can change the pitch of each and every single hit of the shaker sound. And the best way to do so is to add in an LFO. And what you can do now is go into controls and map this to the detune. Notice how the pitch of each and every single hit is slightly different. And mess around with these parameters until we have our favorite setting. Okay, so there's already a bit more movement going on. Another great way to add movement to your shakers is to add panning. Perfect way to do that in Ableton Live is to add this effect called auto pan. Add this to your channel, crank up that amount. Same thing, you can also adjust the rate. What I'd like to do is usually create this rectangular shape and change it to notes. And then mess around with the amount. Awesome. And from this point on, we have enough movement in the sound so we can start shaping the sound. Drag the start position of this sound here. And then reducing decay and sustain to make it very short. Nice, we got ourselves a really solid shaker. Step 2, humanize. What else can we do to make this shaker feel more human, like it's recorded live? Probably one of the most natural ways to add more humanization to your grooves is to literally add grooves. So in the swing and grooves panel here, there's a few grooves that I really like. These MPC swings are really great. Just open up our groove pool and drag a couple of really cool 16th grooves. So you can see these MPC 16, and the higher the number here, the more intense the groove is. I'm just going to take all of these individual little funker grooves, the 16 funker grooves, and maybe add in a couple of these here as well. And what you could do now is double click one of your MIDI clips, and in this little groove panel that you can see here, you can just select your groove that you've just added into your groove pool. There we go. You can swish them out. My favorite types of grooves are the ones that you can't really notice up front, but you can feel. So I'm going to choose this 55 groove. And you can also hit commit, and you can see how these notes change in the timing. You see they're not entirely on the grid if you commit. If we undo that, this is our groove. And if we would have applied this groove to the MIDI here, then it looks like this. But we're going to keep it at this first. Before, after. Bit more swing, a bit of a different timing on each note. Another great way to make your shakers feel more human is by adding some dirt. There's a ton of plugins out there that really help you get that gritty sound, that natural vinyl-ish retro sound. For me personally, one of my favorite plugins that I use is Retro Color. So this is how Retro Color looks like, RC20. Let's play this. So you can add this noise layer. It's really like gritty noise layer. Can add some more pitch wobble here. Can also distort the sound here. If you don't have retro color, then you can use other plugins like erosion. Erosion does a great job on adding that extra noise layer on top. If you don't like erosion, you can also use vinyl distortion. Let's start messing around with the parameters here. Tip number 3, start layering. So once you have your first little shaker loop, you can simply duplicate this layer and pan one to the left and one to the right. So now it sounds like this. And for this little shaker sound, the one we just duplicated, you can right click, show in browser, and now we can replace it with another shaker sound. After if you've created your own little groove, you can always add in loops, shaker loops on top. Therefore, I'm going to go into Azar. I have a couple of nice shaker loops that are really loose in here. And add in this studio recorded shaker loop here. So this is how it sounds together. You can even double click the sample here and take the groove, apply it to this section here. And if we'd like to humanize this little loop that we have here even further, then we could add background texture sounds that sound like this. For me personally, I really vibe with these vinyl crackles. So I'm just going to put it here, right beneath our layers that we already have. Duplicate that towards the end and start mixing it in. At the end, we can group all of our shakers and add an LFO tool to the group to make them move even more. You can consider this side chaining. Awesome. Okay, everyone, that was it for this tutorial. Thank you so much for watching. Feel free to hit that like and subscribe button and grab these sounds using the links down below. See you in the next one. Peace.